Well, well, well. It has been not only a hot minute, a hot second, or a hot hour. It's been a hot amount of time. Jensen, it's good to be back. The boys are back. And we're here for good. And it is good to be here. But there's plenty that's gone on, okay? So I'm really excited for today because firstly, we haven't done this in ages. And secondly, it's good to be able to just actually have a bit of a catch up just as mates and make sure that we know what's going on in people's lives, right?
Yes, it is, Joel. And wow, it has been a while for sure. I'm sure we're going to say that probably 10,000 times an episode. So if you want to play a drinking game along with Spooned It, don't make it that one. But I feel like a little bit of butterflies in the stomach, Joel. It's like we're just
Yeah,
talking,
me too.
which is a very normal
Yeah.
thing, and I feel nervous for something like this. I don't know. There's a pressure, you know. What's funny is like we know that this show is very small and almost zero people even know about it, but at the same time we take it very seriously. I just in the sense that we take pride in what we do, I guess is probably a better way of putting it. And so it feels really good to come back into it, and it's going to look a little bit different. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but important message for you guys to take home right now is we are back and we're excited, and that's about all there is to it.
Further ado, welcome to season 4.
Welcome back to the SpewnedIt Podcast.
So when was actually like the last episode that we did? Like it's been like at least what, 6 months?
I think it's been closer like a year. I think it's been over a year since we actually posted the end of season 3. And now we're beginning.
Hey, what a time. I still can't believe we've done all of that like from from years ago when we were playing through the Halo games. Like, oh man, what a time. What a time. I feel like I wouldn't even recognize those two. Like if we looked back now, wouldn't even recognize who those two are. Oh man.
Yeah, it has been quite a journey, and I think it's cool because not only does it document, the podcast and how we have adjusted it over the years now. That feels crazy to say. Like we've literally been doing this for 3-ish years. Because we started it, pandemic, everybody's locked in their rooms. And we're like, hey, we should get a podcast going. And here we are.
Yeah.
But, no, it's a good feeling. Let's just jump right in. I feel like we say that a lot in the podcast as well. I don't know. I'm just feeling all these nostalgia things. We're a little rusty, obviously. Well, Joel shouldn't be. He's a bloomin' radio news host, so his voice should be golden as always. But I have not.
This should be slick each
Yeah.
and every day of the week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm maybe not more. Well, yeah, maybe like very excited for this. There's definitely more nerves for this than for like when I'm going off to work, because I feel like this is our little project. Do you know what I mean? Like this is my child here that I'm like really wanting to watch out for.
That's
Oh
awesome.
man, but no, it's been it's been good. Still doing the radio stuff. One of the main reasons that we had to take a break was because I was moving house, and so this isn't the house, but it's been ace. I don't think I've given you like a full tour, Jens,
Not yet.
have I?
No.
No.
But
Okay,
one day.
that's gonna have to happen at some point. But we're still in Derby, still in sunny Barbados, as we call it. So that's a lot of fun. It's a
Derbyshire.
much flashier house, and obviously we've been blessed. But like the people before us who were living here, serious money. I kid you not, they had a Ferrari in the garage when we got here, and they left loads of stuff. Sadly,
Not the Ferrari.
Sadly, they didn't leave the Ferrari, even though I'm sure the insurance on that must have been insane.
Yeah.
But like, so the guy heads up. He's like the manager for this massive glasses company called Specsavers. He heads that up, in like an entire region of England, like a quarter of England. He's like the head honcho type of guy. He's a big boss. So, and just a lovely guy. So it was him and his wife living here before, and yeah, like just incredible. So kind and so generous. And they were like, yeah, just take a bunch of this stuff, TVs, couches, beds. They're like, we don't need it. Go for it. And so we genuinely could not believe it. We'd been praying about it so much, and there'd been so much of a faff moving from the other house to this. But man, it's been great. It's been great, and I will give you a tour at some point. We're gonna have to do that. But that was like, I mean, that was one of the main reasons of, you know, like having to put a bit of a pin in it. And we've spoken on the podcast before, haven't we, about like moving house?
Yes.
But
yes, we have.
this felt like, I don't know, this felt a bit different, because I feel like all the other ones, either it's been just a couple of us moving, or it's been just me. Like I've kind of, you know, like flown off to New Zealand or somewhere, and it's been like that's just it's not really moving house. That for me is just like I'm going on an adventure without like there being too much going on. But this felt like a big family moment, because I feel like for any of the other houses, it kind of felt like this was like one house or the other. So when my mum married my now stepdad, like when they got married, we were living in my old family home, and we like when they got married, we hadn't quite sold the other house, which was like my stepdad's place. So I was living there, me and my stepbrother having a great time. But so it was like I was in his house. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't my space. Yeah. And then we came back to like my family home, and that was our space. So it was either the Brown house or the Griffith house. They didn't mix. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then when we had this, it's like, okay, this is new for both of us. And this finally, it's like it's the Griffith house. Like that's who we are. And so to finally have that feels really, really, really good. Gents, we're gonna need to have you over here at some point, man. Like,
I know
that would be so much fun. I would love that. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Like when I came to see you guys in Seattle, that was so cool.
But
yeah, like we're gonna need to have you over here at some point. Would you say there was like one particular move? Because I've like, you know, you and I have had to move houses like more times than I can really remember, and between the both of us, we've like traveled and lived all over the world. But was there one particular move where you were like, this feels like a big moment, either for you or for like the family aspect?
I think probably the biggest one, definitely the biggest one, would just be the first move to Uganda, because it was
out to Uganda.
Up to that point, the only one, aside from my parents, obviously, who had lived in a different house than the one we were currently living in, was my older brother, and all he had done was move when he was, I think, 1 year old, so he didn't even remember. But up until from that time onward, we had been in the same house, pretty much in the same community, you know, going to the same church, so everything was pretty stable up until that moment. And then, you know, we packed up the entire house. The church came over and helped us like remodel half the place. We had we painted it all, you know, white to prepare for renters. They could do whatever they want, blank space kind of thing. Redid all the carpets, you know, the furniture's all gone, everything's out of there, because we, you know, basically sold off probably a solid 70% of our things, and then the rest of it went into boxes, which still filled up like 45 tubs, you know, that were 75 pounds each.
Yeah, it was still massive.
But yeah, that one definitely was the biggest. And then after that, I mean, we moved back and forth a few times, you know, to come back for furloughs and whatnot. But nothing was as big as that one by quite a bit. Yeah.
So did you guys? So you rented out your house when you went over to Uganda. You still owned the place, but you were renting it out.
Yeah, and that was kind of an adventure.
We did
all its own.
Yeah, we did the same thing. How did that feel? Like you said, like you repainted the house and everything. I don't remember us doing that to my place when we left. did you get involved much in that process? How did that feel? That must have been really weird.
Yeah, it was bizarre because, like, I mean, like I said, it's our home. So like my brother and I's room,
Yeah.
you know, which we had like painted the colors we liked. We lived in there our whole lives. You know,
Mm,
everything's just getting. This is like a whitewashing of your entire life, kind of, right? So yeah, definitely weird.
yeah.
And then you're like sitting there because you're still sort of living there, right? Like I think we stayed with some friends
Mm.
like at the very last bit, you know, when we were like fully moved out because somebody I think moved in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
before we even left. So there was a point where we're like driving
No
down our old
way.
street and somebody else is living in the house and we're just like, whoa, this
Whoa.
is really
Yeah,
weird.
that's weird.
So that yeah, definitely a bizarre feeling, just kind of like shifting your whole life and like moving on for the first time.
Yeah.
But it was good. I mean, we had a good time in Uganda and made a lot of memories, met a lot of cool people, including some weird British folks. But uh, in general,
That's
I mean,
I don't think I realized that you guys had I think I maybe knew that you know that you'd like rented it out, but that you'd like done this whole big renovation thing. I don't think I realized that, which is quite a shock because well, just a quick intermission. If this is the first time you're like tuning into the SpewnedIt podcast, firstly, welcome. Thank you so much. And Jensen, how long have we known each other, Jensen? Like, I mean, years.
2008
Like,
back end, so 15 years. That's
so cool to be able
crazy.
to say. But like that actually that amount of time, and there hasn't really been. There may have been like a couple months at a time. I feel like mainly when I was out in New Zealand, really, that's when
Hmm.
we were slightly less connected. But then came back, and since I've been back in the UK, we've been way more on it. So yeah, no, I don't know. I'm really, I don't think I don't think I quite knew that because I mean, yeah, I mean that move was massive. I think for me, the time like when I really kind of when it really hit that we were moving to Uganda as a family, I had this little. Do you know Thunderbirds?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Do you know those guys?
yeah.
So I had this. I had like a little like I don't even know what it was. Like it was a toy of Tracy Island, so where the Thunderbirds live.
Yep.
And it was so cool. Like it had a little hatch for like where Thunderbird 2 would come out. Or I
Nice.
had like the space rocket launcher for was it number 3, I think. And anyway, so cool. But I sold that as part of like moving to Uganda.
Ooh.
And that like I remember being in tears because we had a thing where we were selling loads of stuff and we had a big day of it, and I remember like handing it over, getting like some some worthless dark cold money,
Ew.
and I was like, this is not what I want. And then like going to pray with my mum and my dad and just crying and thinking like, oh, Tracy Island is gone. And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, Joel, got to be a big boy now. Got to get on your big boy
How
pants
how old
because
were
this is
you when that
real.
happened?
We're actually moving. I think I must have been like I was 6. I think I was 6 years old.
That's
So
traumatizing. Yeah,
hey, brutal. Do you know what I mean?
that's rough.
Absolutely brutal. But such a good time, and would not trade that period of my life. I wouldn't trade it for anything, you know, for anything in the world. But but here we are, new beginnings.
New
I went
beginnings.
to test drive a car. Well, today, like when we're recording this earlier on. So that was pretty cool. It's a scary thing to have to do. So like I've never really had to do it for myself. I've always had someone go along with me. So like the
Mhm.
first car that I ever officially bought, like a stupid little car. We've spoken about it on the show before.
Yep.
Chevrolet Kalos, right? A beast. Probably had about 15 horsepower. It was terrible. And then essentially just died on me after a while, and so we just had to I think we just had to chuck it. I can't even remember how much the repairs cost, but it was not worth it. But like even with that, like I went with a good friend of mine, this guy called Barney. He's like very much got his head screwed on. Like he just knows.
Mhm.
He's just a man of the world, right? He's a great guy. Shout out to Barney. And he just kind of helped me out. He helped me ask some questions and that kind of thing. It was great. With the next car that I got, I'm pretty sure I either went. It was either me and my stepdad, or it was me with my whole family. Like all of us went. It was a big occasion, and that was just even to like just test drive the car and like try a few things out. And again, I had someone else there, so I had someone to kind of like bounce ideas off. But this time around, like there was just there was no one who could go with me at the time. Like, just people weren't free, and so I had to make like I made notes on my phone of like things to check, and I remember these guys on YouTube saying like loads of things of like, like don't talk to the guy when you're on the test drive because they might try and like yap loads to like try and
cover up the noise of the car or something.
Cover up the noise of the car.
That's so funny.
But I'm terrible with that kind of thing. Sometimes I can enjoy silence and I'll be fine. Just no worries at all.
Yeah.
But I've never met this guy before in my life. I'm in a random car in a city that I know, but I'm not exactly comfortable with driving about. And I'm having to kind of like mix and match. There's some moments where I like to try and stay quiet for a bit. And there was this one time I was driving, put my window down. I kind of like stuck my ear out a bit. I was like, Joel, what are you doing? I was trying to look like I knew what I was doing.
Listen to the sound of the engine.
But
yeah.
essentially had no idea. I had no clue what I was talking about. But it did go well. And so hopefully, in a few of these podcasts time, maybe, I should have my hands on the new car. But
nice.
Man, speaking of new things to do, gents, it was a nerve-wracking day. Okay, it was, yeah. I was panicking. I did not know what to do.
Yeah, it's such a weird situation because I feel like, I mean, I always kind of, and you too, I think, assume like positively about other people. Like we're not gonna like be the cynical, used car purchaser who's gonna be like, oh, the car's a piece of crap, doesn't work. It's got 15,000 more miles on the odometer. They've adjusted things. They've switched the engine out, all this nonsense. But I think you kind of have to a little bit just for your own safety when buying a used car. Because obviously their goal is to sell it for as much as they can. And as much as they want to, talk nice to you and be like, oh, it's been on this trip and that, but it's in great condition. I mean, she runs fine, all this stuff. You just never, ever know. And there's so many things with a car that can go wrong that you just don't even see or hear unless you really know what you're doing. And I mean, you and I have done a little bit of work on cars, but I don't think either of us would claim to be like an expert enough to be able to like be like, oh, that's the, hydraulic hydro spinner, popping off a little bit there. What do you got to say about that? But that reminds me of one time I've test drove a couple cars, and actually neither time I drove a car that I was looking to buy, neither time the guy rode with me. One time it was just me and Dylan, and the other time it was just me by myself when I didn't have someone to go with. Wow. But one time when we were looking to buy a new van for the family, it was a Toyota Sienna, I want to say like 07, 08. It was a car that no, it wasn't a Sienna. It was a Honda Odyssey. Very big van. I think it was 7 or 8 seater. Yeah. They're kind of, I mean, they feel very safe because they're like wide cars. The front kind of has like a flatness to it. Great family car. One of our neighbors had one. And so we went in there and we met the guy at like a burger joint, just in the parking lot because it was a neutral location or whatever. And he, right off the jump, we knew that he was just going to not stop talking. And he spoke he was like literally the most stereotypical used car salesman. It wasn't a lot, by the way. It was just a, Craigslist ad or whatever. But he literally would not stop. And he was like, I wish I could emulate it better, but it was something along the lines of, oh yeah, this old girl, she's been a family car for the last 5 years. She's been fantastic. We took her down to Disneyland, of course. You got to go to Disneyland, right? We were going to actually drive her up to Alaska at one point, but then, my old man, he had some medical issues, so we didn't get to make that trip. But she's fantastic. And the smoke smell? No, nobody. I think actually my sister, she smokes. She was in here like a couple weeks ago, but it's not like baked in or anything. So maybe what you're smelling is like a little bit left over of that. Oh no, yeah, she's fantastic, great condition. Everything's running fine. And again, we've taken her on a bunch of family trips, down to California. We've been, across to Idaho, maybe Montana a little bit. It was just like one anecdote after the other.
Yeah.
And
not even breathing.
Yeah, no. And he, the thing we never forget, and we always joke about in my family, is he referred to his dad as his old man, which is not really a terribly common phrase around here, but he said, oh, and he kept talking about how his old man was great in the kitchen. And I don't know why that was relevant to anything, but he did. And it's, oh, my old man is fantastic at the kitchen. So if you ever meet my brother Tegan, say that to him. He'll be like, oh my gosh.
Okay.
But what's crazy is when we stepped in the car, we immediately knew that we weren't going to buy it, but we just felt this weird
Yeah.
pressure to go with it because we were like there to, test drive it and stuff. But because of the smoke
Yeah.
smell, which was clearly not like a once, a week ago thing that was just lingering, like somebody had been smoking in the car, which is fine, but you got to say that. And also my mom has like asthma issues, so it really affects her, even if it's just subtle. So we kind of knew that we weren't going to get it regardless of how nice it drove or the price or anything like that. But the one thing he did at the end that was so funny was we are almost positive when we pulled back into the lot and we were like, his brother was there with him. He didn't come with us on the test ride, and we just drove it around like a couple blocks or whatever. But his brother was there in the parking lot with him, and he was maybe like in line to get some food or something. And when we pulled back into the parking lot, the guy gets a phone call, and he picks it up and he's like, No, I'm sorry. I'm with another potential buyer right now, and they got here first. So if they want to buy it, it's theirs, and I can't sell it to you. They got first dibs. So I'm a man of my word. And we are 99% sure that he got his brother to give him a phone call when he pulled back in the thing, so that he could come off as like, oh man, I got so many people trying to buy this car, but I got it for you guys. That nobody else is gonna take it because you got here first, and I'm a solid guy. It was so funny. We're all just like looking at each other like, there's no way, man. There's no way this is happening right now. Oh my gosh, it was.
You know what?
Funny.
I gotta respect the grind from him though. There,
he had one card after another.
Impressive.
And he was playing them all. He laid his whole hand out. It did not work that time, but
love that.
I'm sure somebody fell for it.
Amateur car sales, to a T, to an absolute T. Oh no,
it was awesome.
I love that. I love that. It's it's a scary thing because I wanted to ask you used to do quite a bit of work on your Mustang, didn't you? Like you and Dylan did like a ton of stuff. I remember even when I came around to see you guys, you had a part to fit with him. I don't know, that looks pretty well. He really knows what he's talking about, doesn't he? I'd love to be able to get to that level.
He's so good.
And just actually know and just like, I mean, what I would really love to do, I'd like to be able to tweak with things. I'd like to be able to be like, oh yeah, I feel like if we did this, that would make a bit of a difference there. I've no where to build that off apart from playing loads of Need for Speed. Like that's the only area that I'm in. So
and we're just like, ooh, high RPMs. I don't know. That sounds good. Let's do that. And move the slider over or whatever. No idea what it does.
Yes, that's what I want to be able to do.
No idea.
Did you pick anything up off like what he was? Was he kind of teaching you? Because
Dylan?
or not? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't probably know how to do anything aside from doing stuff with him. And I mean, half the battle is just looking up a YouTube video, finding a car that's the same, and then just watching it and trying to figure it out. So it's not like you know how to fix an alternator on every car, but if you know how to find the information and you have a couple ratchets, like you can generally kind of suss it out. And I think that's like most of life these days is like looking it up on Google and trying to have a little bit of initiative to sort it out yourself. And I think that, so he definitely knew things about cars, and he knew a lot about parts because he sold them at AutoZone for a long time. And he knew his stuff. But I mean, he worked on his parents' cars, maybe a couple friends' cars, but most of it was just like looking it up, trying to figure it out, and then getting whatever we needed and putting a little elbow grease into it.
I feel like a step of it as well is just the bravery. Like I think that's where I just cap out. Like I could talk about it. I can make it sound like I know what I'm doing. But when it comes down to it, I've got no clue. Because like, I mean, in terms of that kind of like adjusting stuff that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Like how easy is that to actually learn? Realistically,
I have no idea. I feel like in order to be at that level where you can like tweak something, one, you have to have a car that's like tweakable. I'm sure they all are to a degree, but a performance car is built for performing, and so you got to be able to like. To be honest, I don't even know where you would start. Like, you moving the exhaust pipe around? Are you unplugging one of the spark plugs? I have no idea. I don't know what. I have no idea.
I feel like as well, it works a lot more. Yeah, well, it works a lot more with with more old school cars. That's why you see all these like all these drift cars and all these, you know, classic like JDM, you know, like Japanese tuners, you know, turners. They're the one turners. Those are the ones that you can really like just kind of, you know, fiddle about with and actually have something happen. I feel like nowadays they're all built as quite standard, or it's all electronic, you know, like you've got to plug a computer into it, fiddle about a bit, and then you can actually, you know, like it's much less of like, you know, you want to adjust things manually with the car. You know, it takes a lot more to do. I feel like maybe if, you know, I think in the future, like if that can be, because I guess it's not well, I don't know, it depends how many parts you're buying. It wouldn't necessarily be the cheapest hobby, but it'd be so much fun to be able to have like, you know, kind of like maybe the boring work car, the family car, just the standard, you know, the Honda Odyssey kind of thing. Just have that, and then have your little like hot hatchback that you can just kind of tinker with. And,
I would love that. That'd be
so
cool.
You know what I mean? There's something like that would be so cool. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what's cool about that is, to me, you don't need an actual like sporty sports car. Like, give me a 2003 Nissan 240. I think those look sick. The little pop-up headlights, like, and at the end of the day, if you're only dropping like a couple grand on it, and it's your sidecar that you don't need to worry about if it actually gets you to work and back, then you can do whatever you want. Right. Yeah. And it's like, well, if I ruin it, too bad, but at least I'm fine. So it gives you the freedom to, that's what we've never had, really. Also, I've never had a place to like park it, because I just live in apartments mostly. Well, that's not entirely true, but
that would be
parking and storage is always an issue. I never had like a garage.
You'd need somewhere to be able to like levitate it a bit as well, and like and just have an area for all your tools as well. Oh man, I do feel like that is something that you and I are going to do in the future. So it's got to be something related to cars that we just need to. So I feel like maybe during this time we need to do our research, and we need to like find out how to do this kind of stuff.
Project car.
And then and then be able to, you know, just kind of like tinker with, when we've actually got the availability to buy this stuff, then we can do that in like in a couple of years time.